So a lot of people were pissed off that they couldn't get it. But now everyone in the world can get it because there's the most copies of any Record Store Day release I've ever seen devoted to this. What's going on, guys? Your friendly neighborhood YouTube vinyl nut is here to talk about the Record Store Day 2020 list. It just came out today. There was a leak of the UK list a couple days ago. I knew it wasn't going to be the final list. There's actually a lot of jarring changes between the US and the UK lists. That being said, I do have some thoughts on the list in general. I want to go through the list first. Instead of my usual format, I kind of want to talk about the things I must have, the things I would like to have, and then some things that I think you might be interested in that I personally am not. And then after that, I want to share some of my general thoughts on Record Store Day and the list in general. Usually, I put tips in this video for how to do Record Store Day if this is your first one. And if this is your first one, and maybe this is your introduction to the channel, hi. Click the video link above if you want to check out my earlier Record Store Day videos where you can learn tips that will help you no matter what year it is. So let's just dive into the list. There's a lot to talk about. Surprisingly, at first, I wasn't that impressed. As I continued to reread it, I found new things almost every time, and these are the ones that I want to share with you. If you haven't already, it'd be awesome if you'd like this video, hit the red subscribe button, and turn your bell notifications on so you don't miss out on any weekly videos I put out. So for my must-haves, we're starting off with the RSD ambassador, Brandie Carlile. If you don't know Brandie's music, she is phenomenal. She has such a unique voice, such like a folk Americana powerhouse. And what I love most about her is her love for the Seattle grunge scene. I got to see her perform some songs, specifically the one on this record, at the Chris Cornell tribute concert, and it blew me away. So to find out she's putting out a Rooster Serj, where she's covering 2 Soundgarden songs, is very exciting. One of which is the absolutely famous Black Hole Sun. Her version is terrific. I definitely want to pick this up. 10,000 copies for a 12-inch. I don't think it'll be that hard to find. And then we have a Denzel Curry 7-inch, Bulls on Parade. If you guys didn't see his absolutely earth-shattering cover of Rage Against the Machine's Bulls on Parade, it broke the internet when it came out. Denzel is definitely one of the hottest rappers out right now. Everyone's talking about him after dropping album after album of heat. And what he did with Rage Against the Machine's track was he gave it some new life while being very faithful to the original version. It still is special enough that I want to have a 7-inch of it. 2,500 copies, I don't foresee this being that hard to get. My Chemical Romance, Life on the Murder Scene. This was a 2006 live album they did, first time on vinyl, so it's comprised of a lot of 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge songs, a lot of early MCR, but this is awesome. I love My Chemical Romance, so anything that's new on vinyl I definitely want to get. And of course, they match the cover and the general aesthetic of the band by doing clear with red splatter. 8,000 copies. I feel like this one won't be too hard to get either. This one was kind of a surprise. The Odd Future OF Tape Volume 2. This was on vinyl a long time ago, but is now out of print. So it's exciting that Get On Down is doing it again, except this time on 2 different colors. It's going to be on neon pink or neon purple, and it has the 2 alternate covers that the original release had. So it's 1,400 copies each. This one might be a little hard to get, but I don't think it's going to be ridiculous in the aftermarket. So those were all the RSD exclusives that I have to get. The rest of my must-haves are all first release. Now, what first release means, if you're an RSD veteran, you know this. You're going to get another chance to get it down the road, probably a different variant, sometimes even a cooler variant, which is extremely frustrating. But that being said, if you don't get it, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much. These next couple are first releases. The one that I am most excited about in this entire list, and thankfully it's a first release, is Currency's Pilot Talk. Now, if you guys saw my top 100 list I just put out, Currency's Covert Coupe was on the list. Pilot Talk was almost there instead. It is one of my favorite hip-hop records of all time. It is laid-back, stoner rap from one of my favorite MCs, who is extremely consistent, if not innovative, but this was his first kind of big release, and it really lives up to its name. It takes you on a sky-high journey. The beats are incredible, the rapping is impeccable, and I really wanted to have this on vinyl the second that I heard it. Unfortunately, it got delayed from last year's Record Store Day. This year, unless it gets delayed again, we should be good to get it. 2,000 copies. I hope I get this version, but if not, I'll get the next one. Gorillaz have a pretty strong showing. Thankfully, it is not more picture discs of their lackluster recent albums, but instead, we're going back to the old material. We're going back to the self-titled and Demon Days, and then going to the demos and B-sides. So both of them had albums, G-sides for Gorillaz and D-sides for Demon Days, that's full of remixes and B-sides and all kinds of really good stuff from the early era of the Gorillaz when they were amazing. I personally love D-sides. There's a song on there called Hong Kong. That's one of my favorite Gorillaz songs, full stop. Each of these are first release, so there's gonna be a lot of them in circulation. 15,000 copies allocated for Record Store Day. You get a Gorillaz, and you get a Gorillaz, and you get a Gorillaz! That's how it feels. but honestly, I'm not too worried about grabbing these either. And then Bone Thugs and Harmony's first ever EP or LP, depending on how you want to call it, Creepin on a Come Up, is coming out. I love Bone Thugs, especially early Bone Thugs, and this is one of my favorite songs of theirs on it, Thuggish Ruggish Bone. The original press of this is out of print, definitely hard to get, so I'll be hoping to grab this. 3,000 copies shouldn't be terrible. And now let's move on to some of the things I'd like, but if I don't get it, not the end of the world. Philip Glass's score for Koyaanisqatsi is finally coming out in its full form. Philip Glass is one of the finest composers alive right now, and Koyaanisqatsi is probably one of my favorite pieces of work he's ever done for soundtrack work. This is just iconic music. It's beautiful, it's brilliant, and the original release was truncated. This version is the full album over 2 discs for the first time ever. I would like to pick this up if I can. As an RSD exclusive, 1,500 copies worldwide, I'm a little nervous. This one was kind of interesting. Rolling Stones are releasing Let It Bleed, one of their best albums, but this time on a limited variant that matches the modern trends in vinyl. What I mean by that is a lot of records, I think this was starting back with the Flaming Lips and Tobacco, they were putting out stuff that are hand-poured records. I think it was pioneered by New Fumes, but basically it's those records where everyone's a little different, where it's these swirls of color, and each one is its own individual artistic masterpiece. Well, I think it's awesome they're doing Let It Bleed on one of these hand-swirled variants. Each one's going to be different. Some of them may be less cool than the others, but that's kind of the gamble you take. It comes with a certificate of authenticity and is only 900 copies worldwide. RSD exclusive. This is going to be a bona fide collector's item. This will be gone very fast. I mean, this is one of the Rolling Stones' best albums. It's probably in my top 3 or 4. Gimme Shelter and You Can't Always Get What You Want are on this, among some of their other amazing underrated songs like Midnight Rambler. And then we're getting some Nils Frahm related release called Flow. I don't know too much about this. It says it's Nils Frahm reworks. Nils Frahm is one of my favorite modern classical, ambient, electronic, experimental, whatever you want to call him, producers these days. And this is a cast of characters that I'm a huge fan of, including and most importantly, Olafur Arnalds and Keaton Henson, amongst many others. This is a series of reworks. I'm definitely curious to see if the price tag is right, what this is. Nativity in Black. This is a cool release. So this is just a bunch of Black Sabbath covers, and what's interesting about it is that some of the members of Black Sabbath are actually on this on various covers. You have bands like White Zombie, Megadeth, doing covers of classic Sabbath tracks, but then you also have some of the actual band members from the band incorporating themselves into the covers, most notably Ozzy singing Iron Man with Therapy, which is a crazy combination. I'd like to pick this up, especially because I've been on a huge Ozzy kick since meeting him recently. It's actually the signed CD of his new album right there. 2,000 copies, RSD exclusive. This one might be a little challenging. The Magic Numbers self-titled record, which is an amazing, underrated indie pop album from, I don't know, the Arcade Fire heyday. I think it was like 2005 or 6. Around the time that all the indie stuff was really getting pumped out and everyone was losing their mind to Modest Mouse, Franz Ferdinand, all of those really good albums. This was one of those ones that got a little overlooked, but I guarantee you there's at least 1 or 2 tracks on there that you'll recognize. This is one of those regional releases, which means that the USA may or may not see many copies of this. And there's only 1,000 of them, so I'm going to be pretty bummed if I miss this, because the original is out of print and, I don't know, goes for about 60, 70 bucks as is. There's another 2 regional releases I'm interested in, one of which is Big L. Big L's The Danger Zone is, I think, the first time on vinyl, and I think it's on pink vinyl, which is a very strange choice for this record, because there's no pink on the cover, and I don't know what that has to do with the music. This is a bunch of collected freestyles, and I think some B-sides and demos, I believe. Big L is one of the best rappers to ever do it, one of the greatest MCs in the history of rap, and having these tracks collected on one release is pretty awesome, so I'd like to grab this if I can. And then Polaris, the band responsible for the theme song for Pete and Pete on Nickelodeon back in the day, also have an album full of excellent tunes, a lot of good alt-rock stuff, not quite grunge, but grunge-esque at times. Really, really good music, and it got a release a while ago. It's now kind of out of print, but right now it's getting a new release for Record Store Day in a gatefold jacket with colored vinyl. I might have to grab this if I see it. And these last 2 that I want are first releases, so I'm sure I can grab these down the road, but Tyler, the Creator's Cherry Bomb is coming to vinyl officially for the first time. You can get a bootleg of this almost anywhere, but the actual album has never been pressed, unlike his other records, of which all of them have been pressed, except Bastard, but that's a mixtape. Cherry Bomb is obviously on translucent red. It has 7,250 copies. This one's probably not going to be hard to get, especially because it's a first release. And then we have Fuktronic, between Jimmy Urine from Mindless Self-Indulgence and Serj Tankian from System of a Down. The 2 of them created, I guess, electronic album that was hinted at years and years ago existing. I don't think many tracks or snippets have leaked from it, but it's apparently the soundtrack of a British gangster getting out of prison, I think. I'm not quite sure the concept behind it, but I'm a big fan of Serj Tankian, so almost anything he's involved with, I'm going to want to get. So I'm excited to hear this. Maybe we'll get a track before the release. Who knows? But it's on this beautiful blue swirl vinyl, and I'd like to grab it if it shows up. And here's a couple that some other people might like in case you didn't look at the list. Billie Eilish live at Third Man Records. This was a huge release that came out, and everyone scrambled to get one of the two versions, one of which was the retail version on green vinyl that was still really hard to get in the aftermarket, and the other version was this blue one that Billie actually splattered the cover of with paint and like stepped on them, leaving footprints. That one goes for ridiculous money online. But the only way to get these were to go to the Third Man Records store that had them. So a lot of people were pissed off that they couldn't get it, but now everyone in the world can get it because there's the most copies of any Record Store Day release I've ever seen devoted to this. I know Billie Eilish is a big thing. I myself am a big fan, but wow. 17,000 copies! This is going to be a coaster in people's houses at this point. It's a great album. If you don't have it, you should definitely pick it up. The Cure, Blood Flowers. I don't necessarily want this record. I know it goes for insane money. I'm talking $200-300 for the original presses. Came out in 2000. It doesn't have any Cure songs I really love on it. It's not a bad album. It's just, for me, kind of forgettable. And unfortunately, they're doing the Record Store Day thing where they're putting it on picture discs instead of actual proper black or colored discs that would sound probably better. 2,000 copies. I have a feeling this is one people are going to buy and throw on eBay immediately. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm probably not going to grab it. Notorious B.I.G. It Was All a Dream, 1994 to 1999 box set. When I saw there was a Biggie box set coming out, I was stoked. I was like, oh man, are we gonna get demos, rarities, B-sides? Is this gonna be something worth my time? Well, as a big Biggie fan, it's not, because I already have his records. This is basically his first record, Ready to Die, and then Born Again and Life After Death on clear vinyl, and then a Junior Mafia album on clear vinyl as well. Kind of a strange choice, but cool, I guess. Ultimately, this is going to be a cash grab. This is probably going to be something that people are going to leave sealed as a collectible because everyone who likes Biggie already has his records. They're not extremely hard to find. And with VMP not too long ago doing that awesome Ready to Die reissue, I don't think anyone's dying to go get this. But if you don't have any of Biggie's albums, this is probably a great way to dive in. Hopefully it sounds good. I know it says it's digitally remastered. That's always hit or miss. And then we have Space Hog's Resident Alien. This was a classic alt-rock shoegaze record that people loved, especially the single, which is very catchy and an awesome song, but I could never really get into this full album. I know it's never been on vinyl before, and as an exclusive with 1,350 copies, this one's going to be hard to get, for sure. This is probably one of the top tier items for a lot of people that grew up with this album and it's a favorite and they've always wanted it on vinyl. For me, I love that one song. You know the song. You go listen to it. You know it. But the rest of it is just fine. I don't think I need it in my collection. And then we have Sweet Relief, a benefit for Victoria Williams. Victoria Williams penned the famous Pearl Jam song Crazy Mary, which they took and made one of their live show staples. A lot of other amazing people like Lou Reed and etc. did this big benefit album for her. A lot of her tracks are represented through their covers, and it's cool, but the only song I really love on there is Crazy Mary. So I don't need this compilation, but I know it's out of print and some people are going to want to grab it, especially if you're a Pearl Jam completionist. And conspicuously absent from the US list were a couple titles I saw on the UK list that I'm kind of bummed about. Homegrown is the lost Neil Young acoustic album from the Harvest era. It has been teased for years and years as one of Neil's most personal recordings, and we're finally getting it for Record Store Day. And by we, I mean not us. UK's getting it. I don't know what's going on. I hope it's a first release and it gets a wider release. I can't imagine this would only be on the UK list, but weirder things have happened. And finally, the release I'm probably saddest to miss is a We Are Scientists release, with Love and Squalor live in Woodstock 1969. Basically taking their seminal indie rock record with Love and Squalor and reimagining it as if they were in the psych era of Woodstock. I don't even know what this would sound like, but these songs are so catchy. I really want to own this because that's one of my favorite records. I love it. It comes on a pink, blue, and green tricolor, and only in the UK, even though they're not a UK band, and it's limited to 500 copies. If anyone watching this is overseas and can get a copy of this, hit me up. I'll trade you something good for it. So that's the list. A lot of things that are interesting, a lot of things I'd like to own, a couple things I really like to own, but ultimately, nothing I need to own. And that's kind of my issue with the list. It's that normally there's this big ticket item that makes me want to line up like a crazy person for 12 hours on the street or 10 hours on the street talking to record fans all night, which is a blast, but ultimately exhausting. And I think it's worth it when you get something that you're like, wow, if I wasn't in line, I would never be able to afford the price this commands, or it's all sold out, I'll never get it otherwise. With the overall quantities going up for Record Store Day every single year, those super special limited records that are worth waiting for seem to be coming in fewer and fewer batches. This year, I don't even know if there's a big ticket item, maybe that Space Hog, but honestly, there's nothing that makes me say I want to do this yearly tradition and wait in line overnight on the street. I'm 30 now, my back hurts every day, I don't want to do this. I was thinking about actually going back and flying to Amoeba to do Record Store Day this year. Nothing's really compelling me to do that. I'll probably go to a New York City store, but will I line up at midnight? Probably not. Will I line up at like 6 a.m.? Probably. And if I don't get everything, I guarantee you I'll get most of it on Discogs for just a few bucks more than face value within the coming weeks, especially with stores online lately putting out their extra stock or holding some stock back at times and putting it out online in the days following Record Store Day. So with this being a new trend, I'm not as worried about missing anything forever. I feel like a lot of the times, especially in the past year or two, I'll buy something and find it cheaper readily available online after the fact, which is kind of a slap in the face if you wait in line and go support the store and all of a sudden it's cheaper somewhere else. I don't know what's going to happen with Record Store Day moving forward. I still think it's an awesome day. I think it's exciting to go support your local record store, and I plan to do that as best I can. But this year, I may not be doing the whole lineup. I still have to think about it. Leave a comment on this video with what you're thinking. Are you excited about this list? Do you plan on lining up at a crazy hour? What are the things that you're most excited for in the list? Is there anything I missed? I just want to hear your thoughts, so make sure you leave a comment with your thoughts on RSD 2020. I'll be doing some more videos, obviously, surrounding Record Store Day between now when it happens, and of course, after I'll share what I got. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed reading the list. I hope you guys liked this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you want more awesome vinyl content, and I'll be doing more videos real soon. So thanks for watching. Take it easy.